Afterwards, I would like to be able to introduce our guest speaker in just a little bit, because we sent out the notices, put it on Facebook, have it on the webpage and stuff like that. But Stan Praeger is from beautiful town of East Long Meadow, okay, and he spent more than 25 years in management in the big box retails, giants like CompUSA and Office Max, before launching Geeks from the basement of his home back in 2001. Now, doesn't that sound familiar, in the basement? A lot of successful things have taken place in basements. Stan founded Geeks based on the principle that PC repair should be treated like automotive and appliance repair, and clients should not be treated with the kind of condescending disdain typical of most tech shops. He also pioneered house call service, a relatively new concept at that time. And as the business grew, Stan left his basement behind and opened a shop on Benton Drive in East Long Meadow. Later, relocating to the current spot on Crane Avenue across from Walgreens on one side and Stephen Allen Jewelers in front. Okay, so if you see that part, you got them right in there set up. So Stan appears on a very regular basis on television as a technology consultant for ABC News 40. In fact, he was on twice today. Okay, so we were still able to steal him away from 40 there, so he'd be here tonight with us. And he recently earned a master's degree in public history and is currently launching a new venture in digital archiving, a perfect marriage of history and technology. Stan, who is not a gamer himself, has interests that include history, anthropology, literature, and Tarantino films, if I said that right, hopefully. Stan has two grown kids off on their own, Sarah and Jack, and he lives in East Long Meadow with his wife, Susan. It's a very beautiful name, I might say. So, talking to Stan, he came up with the idea of building a computer that would be amateur radio ready. Many of us use laptops, but we also know that the flexibility of a desktop or of a tower computer is better suited for most hams' special uses. So if we could have a nice warm welcome for Stan Praeger.
Thank you, Sue, for that wonderful introduction. And thank you very much for welcoming me to your group to talk tonight. I usually don't speak at a podium because I tend to wander around nervously and chat, but there's a mic here, so I'm going to have to stay somewhere within range. Basically, you've heard about the topic, and I can never remember it. I write it, it sounds really good, you know, but then, so hoaxes, hackers, and hijacks. How criminals use technology to scam you and how you can thwart them. Something that's, well, I would never expect to hear radio in here. I'm real shocked. You just threw me for a moment there. As Sue said, you know, I own Geeks in town, in East Long Meadow, for those of you who are local. You know, our specialty is computer repair, and we also manufacture computer. About 70% of our business is repair, and the other 30% is new computers. One of the things that we do a little differently than other people is we offer a free diagnostic. So, you know, most people charge you, and then if you don't want to fix it, you have to pay them. So ours is always free. People love to drop this stuff off to us. We check it out. If they don't want to fix it, they don't have to. It doesn't cost them anything. But what I've discovered from this is that more than 80% of the machines that come into our shop are infected. And most people have no idea they're infected. Most people have rationalized what's wrong with their computer the way some people rationalize what's wrong with their car. Now, I have zero automotive skills. I'm a really good driver. I take pride in my driving skills, but I can't do anything when it comes to working on a car. I was one of those guys who grew up, my friends did it, I could never do it, you know. If I tried to like change the oil or something, the car didn't run again. So I bring my car to my mechanic, and he tells me, you know, you can wait a month or so to fix this, or don't leave the parking lot, it'll die. So I try to offer that same kind of service on the computer end, and have people bring their machines in and we check it out for them. But people tend to rationalize, just like somebody with a car who says, well, that sounds like it could be a belt, or it could be something, it could be a tire, it could be whatever, you know. If you don't know anything about cars, it sounds good, and then you bring it to the mechanic and, you know, you need new valves. You've been driving around with that way for months. and there's, you've destroyed the engine. So this is what we discover with computers. A lot of people will say, well, there's so much stuff on my computer. There's so many pictures and music on here. That's why it's running really slow. Well, you can't put too many things on your computer. Your computer's a closet. Okay, you can't fill your computer up. Well, you can, but it's so rare. It used to be in the 1990s, which is where this comes from. Back in the 90s, and maybe a lot of you folks got your first computer in the 90s, and the hard drive was this big. And if you installed more than 2 or 3 things on it and put more than 5 or 6 pictures on there, you could fill the hard drive. The hard drive is like a closet at home. Your closet doesn't care how many pairs of pants or dresses you have in it unless you fill it. If you fill it, so there's no more room for anything else, then the hanger breaks. Same thing with your hard drive. So you can't put too many things on your hard drive generally, okay? Unless you got a really, really ancient computer, in which case you shouldn't have that. Or you're storing tons and tons of videos that you need to move off-site. But most people are either infected or they have a bad hard drive. And that's why it's so important to get a professional to check it out. Most people either don't have any antivirus software on their computer, or they have really terrible antivirus software like Norton. It's one of the worst antivirus programs that exist today. In the 90s, again, back when the hard drives were this big, Norton was the king. It was the greatest antivirus you could get, but it's a terrible antivirus now. But a lot of people run it. If you bought a computer at Staples or bought anything at Staples, the guys who worked there used to get $5 as a spiff to be able to sell you Norton 360. So people would buy Norton 360 and put it on. A lot of the ISPs, your Comcast, your Charters, places like that, they might offer that as your free antivirus. So that's bad. Anything generally that's free is usually not going to be anywhere near as significantly good as you would want to have. So that's not something I'd recommend to you. And then there's a lot of people that have like just whatever free thing they may have downloaded, an AVG or something like that, or they have nothing. Or they say they don't have to worry about it because they don't go to any bad sites. They don't have to worry about it. They are bulletproof. They're Superman of the universe. They're never going to get infected. But it's really, really easy to get it. So that's one of the issues here. So what I want to talk to you about today, and I'm going to try to kind of focus this, and I'm going to try to make some time at the end so that if you have questions, you can ask questions, because everyone has questions. Also, on the table, there's a piece of paper you can use as a sign-up sheet. If you want to put your email on there, we'll get you on the list. We can send you. I appear on TV frequently. I often share those videos. Good advice what to do. Also, there's flyers and cards and things like that. So if you want to be in touch, you can. If you don't want to be, that's fine. And the newsletter that goes out, there's an unsubscribe option. So if you get it and you're like, geez, I'm not interested in this, you can hit unsubscribe safely and you're good. By the way, we're going to talk about unsubscribe in a minute. So remember that. Let's kind of bookmark that topic for a moment. So what I want to do first is I want to talk to you about the ways in which you can get infected, the very familiar ways, and a lot of the ways that you get infected, people don't really consider as a possibility. But it does, in fact, is one of the what I call landmines on the internet. Now, one of them is rebate and coupon sites, and you're generally not going to find people in their 20s who are going to rebate and coupon sites. This tends to be something that attracts seniors in many, many ways. So we see seniors fall victim to this more than anything else. So rebate, there's a coupon, it looks really good. Now, there are legitimate rebate and coupon sites that you can go to. I don't want to say all of them are bad, You go to Groupon, that's a legit site you sign up for. But there's a lot of other things that if you just Google, coupons or whatever, or something comes up and you go to it, when you go to that site, it installs malware on your system. And if you don't have a really good quality antivirus security product, the one I recommend is Viper from ThreatTrack, and we're a reseller for that company. We've been selling that for many years. I really like that product, but there's other ones out there. But mainly, the main thing is if you don't have a good firewall on your system, it's going to go on there. Even if you do have a good firewall, if something offers you an opportunity to download and you give it permission to download, then your antivirus or security product is going to believe that it's legit in many cases. So it's not going to block it because you've told it it's good, okay? It's like if you're at a restaurant, you ordered that meal, okay? It's going to bring it to you. It's going to let you have it. They're not going to say, no, the fish is bad tonight. Don't order it. They're going to, you're going to get it, and you're going to eat it, and you're going to get sick. So same kind of thing. So that's important, okay? So that's a number one way that people get infected. Another way people get infected is by what we call Google search misdirection. Sounds like a complicated term, but all it really means is you put something in like horse. You want to buy feed for your horse or something, or you want to look up aquarium fish or whatever, and the first thing that comes up often is an ad, okay? but you're not looking at that because you're too busy. You want to find out about that fish food. So you click on that and it takes you to a site that's really nothing to do with fish. But you get to that site, and again, if you don't have a very strong antivirus program on there, it could download malware onto your system. So, that's another way you can get infected really, really easily. The other way is, another misdirection is you type the wrong URL in, okay? You're typing the URL in for whatever, Peter's Potato Chips, and you accidentally put 2 E's in there or what? Well, so criminals are really, really savvy this way, especially if it's a familiar website that you visit all the time, that a lot of people go to. They try to buy up the URLs that are similar to that famous one, Dick's Sporting Goods or Stop and Shop or whatever, and they'll add an extra letter to it, all right? So if you, because and they do this very deliberately. You'll notice when you're typing, if you're gonna make a mistake, the mistake that you make tends to be very similar. There'll be an extra T or an O because of where it is on the keyboard and where you're hitting it, okay? So the criminals have figured this out. So they're gonna buy those URLs. And you can buy a URL website, they're usually like $10 or $12 if it's not something important, If it's JenniferAniston.com, it's gonna cost you more than $12. But if it's something, that you never heard of before, it's usually pretty cheap. So they put malware on that site. So when you type accidentally and you go to that, that's where you can get infected, all right? So a lot of that, really having a good quality security product will protect you from malware getting automatically installed, particularly if you've got a good firewall. And that's what a firewall does. A firewall prevents something from automatically being installed that you haven't asked for. Again, if you make the decision, well, geez, this sounds good. I can't get my printer to work, so let's look for drivers for HP, whatever. I'm using this as an example because 90% of the things that you're going to get if you type that in is going to be malware and you're going to install it in your system. The only way you're going to get drivers for your HP printers is if you go to hp.com. That's where you're going to go, okay? If Epson printer, you're going to epson.com, okay? But if you just type drivers for HP 4680, almost guaranteed, you're going to go somewhere that it's going to have drivers. Click here to download, and you're going to download something really bad for your system. Many, many people bring in their computers to our shop, and on the desktop it says driver update. And they usually bring it in because, geez, my computer's just running so bad, And it turns out it's been running so bad for a year because they did this. They've been infected for a year. And then once you bring one of these in, malware tends to bring its little friends along with them. So you have an infection on your system, it's going to then invite other types of malware to get on your system, and it gets worse and worse and worse. When I use the word malware is kind of a blanket term. We used to just call it a virus. It's very rare that you actually get what's called a virus today. Malware is more frequently what you get. And malware basically can be pretty malevolent to the point where you can have a keylogger where everything that you type somebody else sees, like all of your passwords, your banking passwords, things like that comes up. And then other ones that are just simply feeding you ads all the time, and you wonder why you're getting weird pop-ups. Or another good signal is your homepage changed. It used to be, google.com or comcast.net, and all of a sudden it's like Search Wizard, or something like that, and you go to change it, and it goes right back to that again the next time you restart your browser, okay? So that's important. Before we move on, an important element here, how many people use Internet Explorer as their browser? Yeah, so stop doing that immediately, because it's a very insecure browser, it's very unsafe to use. It's always been unsafe to use. Even Microsoft doesn't use it. They now use a new one called Edge that they put in their system, which isn't very good either, but Internet Explorer is not a safe browser to use. Our joke in the industry is that Internet Explorer is the best browser to use to download other browsers. So you want to be using either Firefox or Chrome. If you guys have grown kids, they're probably like, why aren't you using Chrome, Grandpa? Because that's what everybody uses who's a millennial. But the transition sometimes from Internet Explorer to Chrome can be a little tough for people, so Firefox is a really good recommendation. It really much mirrors what Internet Explorer does. It's a lot safer to do. And you can have more than one browser. You don't have to just use one browser. You could have 4 or 5 browsers. There's Internet Explorer, there's Chrome, there's Opera, there's Safari, there's a bunch of them. One of those browsers will be your default browser. And all that means is when you get an email and there's a link in it, like for me, saying, go to Go Geeks, when you click on Go Geeks, your default browser is the one that's going to open, whether it's Firefox or Chrome, or hopefully it's not Internet Explorer anymore after today. But I'm going to shame you. No, just kidding. And everyone starts with that. That's the thing. A lot of us have started using, I'm 62 years old. I started using computers heavily at home in the 90s. And, so stuff that you did then, you tend to get used to it. Like I'll say to people like, why do you use AOL? Like why would anybody use AOL? And they're like, well, that's the email that I had. I got it in 1993, and so here I am still using it. So it doesn't mean that using AOL is a great solution for you, but people get used to doing that, and they're lazy about making a change, especially because it looks like it's far more daunting to get another email, like getting a Gmail, than you would think. And this is a really good time to kind of segue into email, because email is a huge problem, and email is a huge way that people get infected, as well as a huge way that we suffer with spam and what have you. And it's largely because if you suffer from spam problems, it's largely because you do have an AOL email or a Yahoo email or something that you've had since 1994. And when you open it each day, there's one message on there from someone you know, and there's 7,000 emails. So you don't have to do that. And it's really easy to get a new email. So you go to gmail.com, for instance, which is what I recommend everybody use, and you sign up and get an email. Now the big question is how are people going to know? Everyone that I've ever known has known that I had AOL. What are they going to do? What will happen? Well, first of all, you're probably not that important. I don't want to shake anyone's confidence here, but the world is probably not going to come to an end because your email changed. But it's really easy. All you do is you take your new email address and you let everyone that you want to know that you have a new email address, you give them that email. You send out a blast in AOL to those people that you know. Not to everyone, unless you want to bring people along that you really don't want, like Victoria's Secret and Old Navy, which are two companies that are almost impossible to unsubscribe from, if you've ever tried. If you've ever ordered anything or even you got a catalog from one of those guys, you'll just never get rid of them. So your AOL email will never go away. Long after you are in the sky, your AOL email will keep getting spam from Old Navy and Victoria's Secret. It's going to happen forever. But so your email doesn't go away. You're never going to get rid of your AOL or your Yahoo email. It's always going to be there. But you're now going to use your Gmail as your primary email. And what you're going to do is you're going to tell those people that you want to know this is your new email. You can still check your AOL email or whatever you currently have, but over time you'll find that less and less important messages are going there. And you're only going to use that email in the future for things that you don't want to ever hear from people again. So when you sign up for a rebate in the store or a contest or something like that, and you don't want to forever be spammed by these people, you're going to use your AOL email for that. And you're going to give your Gmail to your Bank of America and your mortgage company and your credit cards and important people and people in your family and friends that you really want to stay in touch with. If you have that uncle who sends you political email every day that's diametrically opposed to your beliefs that you're getting constantly, you're going to give him. You're going to let him use AOL from now on. If you've got like someone who just constantly just sends you pictures of cats, let that person just also use AOL. It's really easy. You'll find that the important people within really 30 to 60 days, anyone that you really want to be in contact with is going to use your new email. So it's really very, very simple. I actually have 7 different email accounts, and I've used them for many different things. I have Stan at GoGeeks.com, which I use for GoGeeks, because that's my business, okay? And I also have Stan Praeger at gmail.com that I use for a lot of my personal stuff. And then I have my own webpage that I use for my history and digitization stuff, and that's and the email for that is stan at stanpraeger.com. A lot of that stuff tends to merge into, I use Outlook as my mail program, so a lot of those emails all feed into that, but I use them for different things. You don't have to have 7, but if you have one that you've had since 1994, you should probably think about getting a different one, all right? While we're on the topic of email, a lot of people get infected through email. And what I normally hear, and by the way, the things that most people say about computers and about email and about the internet, they're wrong. Okay, so if your uncle or your buddy or your cousin or your neighbor next door told you something, it's probably wrong. Okay, it's as wrong as there's too many pictures on my computer and that's why it's running slow. Even though you have driver update sitting right in the front of your machine, and every time it starts it says driver update, but you ignore that. You believe you have too many pictures. So anyway, with email, what tends to happen is that people will say, well, I never open anything that I don't know. I never open any of those emails that I don't know, okay? just opening an email, it's almost impossible to get infected by opening an email itself, okay? However, it is very easy to get infected by opening an attachment to the email. That's where most really bad malware comes in, is it through attachments, and the other one is through clicking on a link. First we'll talk about attachments. So an attachment would be like a picture or a PDF file or something like that, okay? One of the things that you'll see, I don't know if you guys are familiar with what's called ransomware, but that's where you download, this malware downloads onto your system, and then in 24 to 48 hours, you don't know it's downloaded, but within 24 to 48 hours, it encrypts everything on your computer and changes the file ending. So instead of your Word file ending in DOC or your Excel file ending in XLS, it now ends in this strange code. And there's no way to open it unless you pay the ransom. Suddenly after 48 hours, a notice will come up and saying if you don't pay this amount of money they usually want Bitcoin, which is cryptocurrency. And they even give you instructions on how to buy Bitcoin now, because most people have no idea. But there is no way to get this back. So if it happens to you and you haven't backed up your data, if you bring us your computer, what we would do is we would erase your computer, reload Windows, reinstall your programs and stuff, but we can't get your data back for you unless you pay them. And I had a business client who paid $13,000 because he had networked computers. He had 7 computers. And it came in because the admin person, a message came in and said, your FedEx package is lost, click on this attachment. And it's an office that gets a lot of FedEx. So, the girl really wasn't thinking, what happened here. So we eventually, the solution we got for them later was we put them into a situation where we had a computer that was isolated from the rest of the network. So if that happened to them again, it wouldn't spread throughout the network. By the way, if you back up your data, which is I strongly recommend, most people don't do, but if you do back up your data, don't leave your external hard drive plugged into your computer all the time. Because if you get ransomware on your computer, your external hard drive will also get ransomware on. So you want to avoid that kind of thing. But getting back to the email part of it, so attachments. When an attachment comes in, if your daughter is sending you an attachment, a picture, you can safely open it. I mean, unless she's out to get you, unless she's done something, really bad to her. You're probably safe in opening the picture that she sent you. But if you get, you get some strange thing with an attachment next to it, another one they've been doing lately is you have a new voicemail, and it's an audio file, or appears to be an audio file. And you're like, how would I get a new voicemail? You click on it. All of these will release malware into your system. And some of them are ransomware and some of them aren't, but they will release malware. What normally happens though is when you click on it, nothing happens. So because nothing happens, you don't think anything of it, and you go on with your life. But the malware's on your system. And if it's ransomware, the clock is ticking, and you have no idea. Until it's all encrypted, you're not going to know what's happening, because it's all behind the scenes. So you're going to want to keep that in mind. It's very, very important. The next thing that happens with email is links, clicking on a link. And usually this comes in through what's called phishing, okay? It's phishing, not phishing like, for trout, and not Fish like the band, for those who were, former Grateful Dead fans who moved on to the Fish guys. But it's spelled like that. It's a P-H-I-S-H, and phishing is an email that's sent to you that's attempting to trick you into doing something. And it's usually clicking on a link. It's most frequently used for online banking. You receive a message from your bank. It appears to be from your bank, Bank of America, People's, United, whatever it is, and it'll say there's a problem with your account, or your account's locked, or your balances run low. Click on this link. When you do, it takes you to a web page that exactly mimics what your actual online banking web page looks like. Identical. And it asks you to put in your user and password, just like you do every day when you check your bank balance. So you put in your user and password, bingo, you've given them your user and password. So now the criminals have it, they can get into your account, they can steal your money. That's a big, so if you get a message like that, first of all, no bank's going to send you a message that tells you to click on a link. But if they did, or if you have a question about it, you get a message from your bank, leave the email, go on the web, and go to your bank website, like you normally would, and log in there, like you would every day. Don't click on the link in the email. If there is a message from you from the bank, it'll be there. If there isn't, then you don't have to worry about it. But don't click on that link. Another one that they do fairly frequently is your email. So it'll say, if you have Gmail or AOL is notorious for this, because AOL is like an incredibly insecure email product. It's like, AOL is like you bought a brand new Mustang and you left it running in front of your house and went to sleep. That's AOL. Your email is always open to every criminal in the world. It's really insecure, but there's a lot of them like that. But this is a good way to get in the door to it. So you get an email and it says there's a problem with your AOL account, or there's a new upgrade to your AOL. It's really important. Click on this link. When you do, it does the same thing. It takes you to a page. It looks just like AOL. You click on the link. When you go to that page, you put in your user and password. Now they have your user and password. Now what do they do with that? They don't do anything right away. They do what we call lurk. They lurk and they stalk you. And they find out from lurking in your email who your friends are, what banks you use, where you shop, what clubs you might belong to, what mailing list you're on. And then over a period of time, they craft a phishing email that takes advantage of that. And it might be a blackmail email. We've seen these also. We get an email, it looks like, it has your address in it. It has, maybe an old password that was hijacked a long time ago. A lot of other information. It might say, we know where your daughter goes to school. Some of them are actual death threats, and they'll ask for a ransom. And I've had people come in like actually pale and shaking, with these things. A variant of that is that they send one out that says, we know what you do on your computer, and we've gotten in, and we have, copies of all these, adult photos that you have stored on there, and we're going to send these out to your friends and to your colleagues at work. Really scares people, even if they don't have anything bad in their system, they think, oh my God, So this is one of the ways you want to be really careful about that, about letting people into your email. And you want to make sure it's secure. You want to have a good secure email, you want to have a good secure password for your email, and you want to make sure that you're not using the same password that you used in 1993. Before I talk about passwords, I want to say one more thing about email. If you're getting spam, and I mean, who isn't getting spam? I mean, unless you're like somebody, if you're not getting spam, then really you're a very unpopular person, so you have no friends. But if you're getting spam, like everyone is, so one of the options on the bottom of emails often will say unsubscribe, okay? Now, you can try that with Victoria's Secret or Old Navy, and it may or may not work. That's legit though, they're legit companies, okay? But if you're getting a spam email from somebody trying to sell you Russian pharmaceuticals or something, and you click unsubscribe, you've now validated your email. And many people have done this. Once you've done it, you're dead. That's it, forever. You're going to get 20 times the amount of spam you got in the past because now they know that this email exists. You have to understand this. These people that do this, and many of them are in the Ukraine or in one of the former Soviet republics where Interpol doesn't reach, they're sending out these blasts, they're sending out emails to millions and millions of people. They're just trawling the internet, getting email addresses and sending these things out. So when they don't know, you could be dead, you could not have this email, couldn't be real, it doesn't matter. But they only need a very, very tiny percentage for it to work. If you think about legitimate marketing, in the old days of bulk mail, which is kind of like the old days of blacksmithing, but bulk mail used to be big, right? And so, but if the response rates were, if you sent out a bulk mail blast of 100,000 pieces of mail or something, if 0.1% responded and bought something, you made money. Okay, it's the same kind of thing. They're sending out millions of emails. If a tiny proportion of people actually fall for it and buy the product, it works out well. If a tiny proportion of those people hit unsubscribe, now they've validated your email, they're going to send you more spam. So you don't ever want to hit unsubscribe unless you know who you're unsubscribing from. That's just kind of a rule of thumb. And if you've done it a lot in the past, again, another good reason to get yourself a new email and start over again. And again, you're not going to lose your old email. It's not going to go away. It'll never go away. Long after you're dead, that email is still going to be there. Keep this in mind. Old Navy, as long as they're in business, they're going to keep sending you that catalog. So you don't have to worry about that. But your new email should be clean, and you can keep it clean. This is a really good time to segue into passwords. Most people either use the same password for everything or have a really bad password or don't have any idea what their passwords are because now all the companies are trying to force you into using secure passwords that have to be at least 8 characters with 1 capital letter and 1 number and 1 special character, so nobody knows what their password is anymore. And maybe I went to someone's house, they had like just all these little sheets on their Post-its and note cards and all this, and they didn't know they had the same website with 4 different passwords because it had been changed. They didn't know what the most current one was. So, but you got to use a strong password, and you should have some idea what the password is. So a good way to go, it's really an easy way to go, is get a little notebook, or I use an Excel spreadsheet if you want to be a little bit more sophisticated. But whatever you use, have like a system, okay? And like page 1, if you're using a notebook, page 1 should have your Wi-Fi password. By the way, we make a tremendous amount of money every month on people who don't know their Wi-Fi password. And I feel bad, I really do, because I tell people, you know, I don't mind doing house calls, I don't mind going to your house, but I really feel bad that I'm going to your house and charging you 99 bucks to find out what your Wi-Fi password is, okay? You should know your Wi-Fi password. It should be taped to your refrigerator. So when your grandkids come over, or your friends come over, anybody, the first question I ask when I go over to somebody's house is, what's your Wi-Fi password? Because I want to be able to get on Wi-Fi on my phone, I don't want to use cellular, okay? That's the very first thing I do. So it should be somewhere, you should know it. And if you do have to go through that pain of having somebody find it for you, like, you know, your grandkid, who then makes fun of you for an hour about it, or you pay somebody like me to go out there and get it, take the step, tape it to the back of your router, put it on your refrigerator, put it somewhere, because that's the most important thing you need. You know, if you get Netflix, you know, you use Amazon Prime, you use any kind of streaming service, you gotta know your Wi-Fi password in order to get on your smart TV. That's another way that, you know, people call us out to their house, they got a new smart TV, they can't get on there because they don't know their Wi-Fi password. So you want to know that. But your other passwords are really important too. Your password for your online banking is really important. Obviously, that's the one that needs to be most secure. Now, I know there's still people out there who say, well, I don't use online banking because that's, you know, that's really dangerous. And it's wrong. It's actually the safest thing you can use. And you're going to be more secure by using online banking than you wouldn't be, because if somebody hacks your account, you know, which happened to me once, I found out about it instantly because I got a text alert from the bank. Immediately, because I had it set up that way. And I was able to log in and see that someone had spent $5,000 buying stuff in the Bahamas, okay? Clients of mine who don't use online banking, this happens to them and they don't find out about it for a whole billing cycle. And by then it's really, really difficult to get the money back. I got the money back like that because I was able to identify it right away. Online banking is very, very secure, and you're behind the most secure firewall there is. There is nothing else on the internet that's as secure as your bank. So, you know, I highly recommend using it, but obviously use a password that is not fluffy one. Most people use the name of their dead pet. That's, and in fact, there's a great, I hope there's nobody here actually had a fluffy, because there's going to be tears, but so every now and then that happens in the audience. They're fluffy. I loved her. But there's actually a great cartoon I saw somewhere, and I wish I clipped it out, and it's a picture of people standing around the pet cemetery, and there's the grave, and they're standing around looking down, and they said, don't worry, you'll always live on as our internet password. But that's what it is, you know, that's people are going to use their pet's name for their email password or something else. So don't do that. What the best kinds of passwords are 2 words, 2 numbers, and a special character. And choose 2 words that you can remember for each one you do. Make it unique, okay? Nobody can guess those. The logarithms are really difficult. Choose 1 letter to capitalize. So if you're going to use 2 words, either capitalize the first letter of the first word or the first letter of the second word. But do it the same for all of them, okay? Don't use the same password for everything, but use the same system, okay? So, you know, one of the ones that I like is like Amazon. In order to get your Amazon Prime, if you want to rent a movie, you have to put in, my smart TV does not remember that one. It remembers Netflix, but it doesn't remember that one. But that's one that if somebody gets your Amazon password, they can also, you know, order a lot of things. It costs you some serious money. So that one you want to protect well, right? So come up with a password you can remember, you know. So, you know, we know that the Amazon women fought the ancient Greeks, right? So, you know, your password in that particular case could be, you know, Greek Springfield 12 pound. You know, do something you can remember so that you don't go nuts with this kind of thing. Write it down in your little password book. Well, but you know, come up with something unique that you can utilize. But I highly recommend that. 2 words, 2 numbers, and you know, a special character. You know, for a long time, my online banking password, the first word in there was the first name of this teller that I hated at the bank I used to go to. She was just a miserable human being. She always made me feel terrible. I always did it wrong. I filled the slip out wrong, whatever. I hated going there. Whenever she was at the counter, I'd be like, oh my God, I have to deal with her again. So she lived on for a long time as the first word in my online banking password. And of course, you know, I won't reveal that because she'll sue me. But you know, so that's a good way to go. But I'll tell you, it was really easy to remember my online banking password when I did it that way, as opposed to when I did it before, where I had a couple of letters and a string of numbers that I could never remember. And I had to constantly look it up all the time. And then, you know, you're in a hotel somewhere and you have to check your bank balance, you know. It's a problem. So, you know, you want to really keep in mind that whatever you do for passwords, you write them down, okay? And by the way, I want to make this really clear. There's some things you're not responsible for, okay? Just like with your car. You're not responsible to know how to change or put new valves in your engine, okay? You're just not responsible for that, okay? But you are responsible if the E-light comes on in your gas tank and you run out of gas, okay? So a lot of people will say to me, particularly seniors will say to me, well, you know, I didn't grow up with all this stuff, so, you know, I don't, you know, that's a lousy excuse for not knowing what your password is, okay? I don't care how old you are. My oldest client's 97 and he bought his third computer from us, and he's got 3 pages of passwords. That's your responsibility. It's not your responsibility to know how to install your modem or how to set your Wi-Fi password on your modem. That's a good thing to call me for. And I'll make sure your modem's secure so that nobody can hack into it and that it's got a good Wi-Fi password, and I'll write it all down for you. You shouldn't be expected to do that, okay? What often happens is that the stuff that people should be able to do for themselves, they don't. And the stuff that no one should expect them to do, they try to do, because they figure out, well, why shouldn't I be able to do that? Why shouldn't I be able to install this modem, you know? I don't know how many people it takes a half an hour longer to get the router set up properly because they spent hours on the phone with Netgear or Linksys and whatever, completely screwed the whole thing up. I have to call Charter and reset. I mean, really, there's no reason why anybody should be expected to know this. Now, I know a lot of technology. It says on the box, easy to install. That's a lie, okay? It's easy to install if you're a geek, okay? If you're not a geek, it's not easy to install. And there's really no reason to shorten your life, first of all, by suffering, you know? I mean, if you have to sit down and call an 800 number and you're on the phone for 45 minutes, you want to make sure you have an open bottle of wine or a 6-pack sitting next to you, because by the time you're done, you know, it's all over. But honestly, so that's the kind of thing, it's worth investing the money, just like with your car. You want it done right, you know. I mean, a lot of people know how to change their oil, but they still bring it down and have it done because a mechanic is going to also look and see other problems and do a safety check and what have you, so it's worth the $40, you know. But it's the same kind of thing here. It's worth getting a professional like Go Geeks involved to do things like that for you. But there is stuff that you need to know, you know, for yourself. You should know, like, what your antivirus program is, okay? If I asked you, if you called on the phone and I said, what antivirus program are you running, and you don't know, that's a problem. If you don't know what version of Windows you're running, you don't know whether you have Windows 7 or Windows 10 or Windows XP or God help us, that's on you. You should know that, okay? You should know your Wi-Fi password, or at least be able to, if you don't know it at the top of your head, be able to go somewhere and grab it. You know, these are things that you should be responsible for. And don't ever, you know, use the excuse, particularly, you know, those of you guys who are older, that, well, I didn't grow up with this stuff, you know? I mean, I'm 62. I grew up with a black and white TV watching I.G. Magini. And she's one of the few that are still alive, but from that era. But you know what I mean? Like, this was all new to me as well, okay? And so, you know, separate in your minds what things you should be responsible for knowing and what things you should go to a professional for, just like your car. And use your car or use your house, your appliances, or, you know, when would you call an appliance repair person and what would you do yourself? You know, you probably wouldn't think anything of changing the filters in the fan over your stove. But if the fan didn't work anymore, you'd probably call an appliance repair guy to fix it for you, you know, unless you were really handy and this is something that you did, which is fine, you know. So that's important. Most important things to remember are the criminals that are out there that are taking advantage, that are hijacking your systems, that are hacking in. They know what your weaknesses are, and that's what they're working off of, okay? They're working off that fact. They're working off the fact that people, you know, like to fall for things. Like you get the worst one I think is you get the email that says that, you know, a Nigerian prince, and you've gotten, you know, but like, people fall for that. I mean, we all laugh, right? But people actually fall for that. Maybe there really is a suitcase with $500,000 waiting, you know what I mean? You know?
I got offered for $27 million.
Yeah.
Then the other day, I got one for $8 million.
Oh yeah.
From Alan Grimaldi,
Yeah.
who died in Canada in a
Right.
tragic auto accident.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, exactly. And there's a lot of other ones they can use to trick you. Another one is like, if I hijacked your email, and then I sent an email to everyone that you knew saying that you were stuck in Barcelona on vacation, and you'd lost your wallet, and you really needed money, and could somebody wire money? People fall for that all the time. So, expect that to happen. What I always tell people is like, when you go to New York City, if you go off the subway and somebody's trying to hand you a $100 bill, it's probably a scam, okay? I mean, the 100 looks really attractive, but it's probably a scam. Don't take that $100, okay? It's the same kind of thing here. Just use good common sense often and think about it. And the other thing you want to do is you want to have a relationship with a computer professional. It doesn't have to be me, but everybody has an appliance repair person, and everyone has an electrician and a plumber and a car mechanic that they go to. They may not use them frequently, but they usually have somebody. This guy's been my plumber for 20 years or whatever. You should have somebody like that for your computer. It doesn't have to be Stan at Go Geeks, but it should be somebody, because you need to be able to call somebody who actually knows what they're talking about, okay? And don't count on the fact that you've got a nephew or a cousin or somebody, oh, he's in IT, he knows everything. So let me clue you in something about technology. It's like the airline industry. The airline industry, you got the guy who flies the plane, or the lady who flies the plane, and then you got the person who works on the engine, and then you got the person who brings you the coffee, okay? You don't want the person bringing the coffee in the cockpit, all right? So it's the same thing in the technology industry. Everyone has a nephew who's in IT or something, who knows something. It doesn't mean they have any idea what's going on with your system. Most IT people, in fact, bring their computers to us because they're experts with networking in offices. Just like there are people who write databases. This is what they do, they're programmers. Or there's people who do web design. I don't do any of those things. I don't do web design, okay? But a web design person is going to come to me and say, my computer's running slow, what's wrong with it? And I'll test and see if they have a bad hard drive, if they're infected or what have you. But if I need a website done, I have to go to them. So remember, it's a big tent when it comes to it. It's not something that is, because somebody has some experience in technology, they know. And again, we all have friends and neighbors and relatives that have, well, I think it could be, they might be right, but they're probably wrong. And you're just going to go down the wrong path here, unless you talk to, this is an area, particularly today, where there is one right answer usually. Sometimes there's more than one. Sometimes it's like whatever, you can use Internet Explorer, you can use Firefox or Chrome. Either one, doesn't make any difference, okay? But Internet Explorer is the wrong answer. So, you know what I mean? So this is stuff you really need to know. So one of the things we do at Go Geeks is we offer, any of our clients can call us at any time with questions. Now, if you call me every day, I'm going to charge you. But if you call me and say, there's this thing that says Adobe Flash update, should I do this? That's free, always, to anybody who calls us. We'll advise them on that. And that's what you want. You want that kind of relationship to find out, because why should you know? Why should you know whether this is an update you should do? And I'm going to round it up with this, and I'm going to open up to questions, but updates. So everyone says to me, most of our clients have said to me at one time or another that either one of two things. They say either, I don't do any updates because that's dangerous, or they just do every update. I do all the updates. Whatever comes up, I just do it. So, and both of those people are wrong. Like, you don't do every update that comes up, and don't do, even worse, don't do no updates, all right? The story I did on Western Mass News earlier today was about this global virus threat that Microsoft issued a patch for. Because, if you have Windows 10, you're fine. It's going to automatically be updated. But if you have an older version of Windows, there's a vulnerability that criminals can use to get through, including Windows 7, which is relatively recent, and just right from the internet go into your system. So they issued a patch, and anybody who has like automatic updates set up for their Windows update with Windows 7, that patch will be installed. If they don't, they need to go in and run it manually. But Windows 7 support is running out January of 2020. So if you have Windows 7, you need to do something about it before January. And that either means, upgrading to Windows 10 if your system is compatible with Windows 10, or getting a new computer, which is going to have Windows 10. All the computers that we manufacture at Go Geeks has Windows 10 on it. We have built some specifically for people with Windows 7 who had industry-specific software that wouldn't run on 10. That's going to be a problem going forward. Those folks are going to have to figure out what their best solution is, because Microsoft is no longer going to issue support security updates for that. So that's something to think about. Anybody who has a computer that's, older than 5 years needs to replace it anyway. Like a computer doesn't, our customs that we build people tend to get 6 years or more out of them. Well, people have joked with me that one of the problems with our computers is they last too long, so you're not encouraged to replace them, which is a good joke. We enjoy it, but the fact is, if you've got an old computer, you're suffering needlessly. In many cases, I go to people's homes and they've got 3 60-inch smart TVs, and they've got this horrible computer that just runs like paste. And one of the reasons that that's the case is that people, it's very jarring to shop for a new computer. It's really easy to shop for a TV. You go to like the mall, and there's like 3 giant TVs on the wall, or 15, whatever, depending on what store you go to, and there's a cheetah running across the screen, and whatever one is the clearest cheetah, you buy that one. And it's good, it's simple, bingo. You bring it home, everyone's happy. But a computer, what's inside the box varies significantly from one to another, and everything that's sold at retail right now is terrible. They don't sell anything good quality at retail. So you either need to, order something online or have somebody build one for you like us. But, that's the issue. So, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about what we do with that, because that's not the purpose of this. This is about security, not me selling you computers. But if anyone, wants more information on that, like I said, the email thing's there, there's flyers. We can talk to you more about that. We include delivery and install and, all the yada yada, so you don't have to do any of that. And that's another thing that keeps people from buying a new computer. Because getting your email set up properly and installing your programs and finding where things are, you'd rather take your own life. So it's better to not get a new computer and think about it some other time, So it's kind of like you love that car and you drive it until the wheel falls off. That's the way it goes. But all right, I could go on with this because there's so much to talk about in the technology arena with threats. I could go on about this for at least another hour and a half, but I'm not going to do that. I'd like to take some time. Like take 10 minutes or so, and does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
I got 2 questions, but I'll be happy if you could do one for now.
I can do both of them. Go ahead.
Okay, I'll make them real quick. You scared me way off at the beginning. I have Norton antivirus. What can I replace it with?
So I recommend Viper, which is made by ThreatTrack. It's not one that you can buy at the store. It's an online company that sells this. We are resellers from it. If you buy it from us at Go Geeks, we give you 1 year support on it. You can also go directly and buy it from them online. They are a US-based company. Some companies are not US-based with this, which there's been some, I'm not going to say which one specific, but there's one that's out there that's been very highly respected over the years, but happens to be based in a country that can be somewhat hostile to us from time to time. And so there's some question as to whether that's so secure, because an antivirus really is, your computer's naked with whatever you install to an antivirus. So you want a product. So I like the fact that it's a US-based company. It's very trustworthy. I also, it uses what I call a very light footprint. Bless you. One of the problems with Norton is it tends to use so much system resources that your system, especially if you have an older computer, your system runs really slow because Norton's on there running. Same thing with McAfee. Whereas the Viper is an antivirus, a firewall, and an anti-malware program that uses a very light step. You don't notice it's running, so it doesn't use a lot of resources.
Okay.
What's your second
question?
Yes.
Do you do anything with Apple products, and are they, 2-part question, are they safer than a Windows product?
So we do have a Mac tech, and we do a certain amount of work on Macs. Macs are proprietary, meaning that they are, the software and the and the hardware is made by Apple. So there's not a lot of things that can be done. Some of those parts cannot be gotten except through a Mac dealer per se. Less and less hardware can actually be repaired on a Mac anymore. Macs are considered to be safer than Windows-based computers only because only 6% of all the computers in the world are Mac. So if you're a criminal in Kazakhstan and you're designing a malware bug, you're probably going to aim it at Windows because you're more likely to make money on it. We have had Mac customers get infected though. So the belief that you can't get infected on a Mac is incorrect.
Okay.
But it's less likely because it's targeted less frequently.
Okay.
Macs, there's nothing wrong with Macs. Really the difference between a Mac and a Windows-based computer is a Mac is proprietary, so you have to do what they want you to do. It's like I love my iPhone, but it's like you're more limited as far as apps. If you've got an Android phone, there's a million more apps you can install because they don't have to go through a long process. It also means there's a lot of bad apps that you can install on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Apple, really, Because whoever develops an app has to go through a really rigorous process, and it costs them a lot of money to get up in the Apple Store. Some of it may be seen as unfair, but you're not going to download an app with a virus on it from the Apple Store. But you could through the Droid. So that's the reason. Macs are very specific also. Big difference. Windows-based computer, it's you put a carpet in your living room. You can put any kind of furniture you want on it. So you can install a lot of different kinds of software on a Windows-based computer, whereas on a Mac, it's much more limited. So that's really the difference. I have a lot of clients that have like a Windows desktop and a Mac laptop.
I have an iPad.
Yeah, yeah.
The iPad, you flip it open, you put in your password, boom.
Yeah.
I can check my email before the other thing even turns a revolution on the hard drive.
Yeah, right. No, exactly. Yeah, but I mean, a tablet you can only do so much with. So
Exactly.
And I actually did a show once called "One Size Doesn't Fit All,"
Right.
because I have a desktop and I have a laptop and I have an iPhone and I have an iPad. I use all of them. I use the laptop the least. Because to me, a laptop is a terrible thing to use. I'm like this, and my head's down here, and I got this little screen. I mean, I have a 27-inch monitor with my desktop, and a wireless keyboard and mouse and a comfortable chair. I'm an old guy. I don't want to be like this, you know what I mean? Next question.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
What's your opinion of AVG free and AVG security software in general?
In general, I think they're both pretty bad. The free is worthless. The one you pay for is a little bit better. But basically, there's really very, very few products out there. It's not that I'm trying to sell this. Like I said, Viper and that other product, whose name we shall not speak, were really the two things that I always recommended. I'm sorry, you were first, then I'll get to you.
As opposed to unsubscribing, would you take that address and put it into the blocked?
Yeah, you can do that if you want. Yeah, if you do that. I mean, the biggest thing is, like I said, if you've got an old email address, honestly, your best bet is to start over with something new and just use that old email to check for junk.
I'm talking about the new one, start.
The new one, yeah. So there's usually you can, depending on the program, it'll say, block this one when it comes in. Some spam it's impossible to block because they're just using a different name each time they're sending it. So it can be annoying, But if you're getting a lot of those, again, you could be a problem because you hit unsubscribe to something that was bad.
Right.
So that could be the problem. Yes, sir.
Just in line with Ernie started to say, I find I have a couple of IBM compatible laptops,
Yeah.
Microsoft laptops.
Yeah.
I've got a MacBook Pro.
Yeah,
One of them I've had for 11 years.
yeah,
The trackpad on it is starting to give me crap,
yeah,
but I gave it to my wife, so she doesn't use it much.
yeah,
But the reality is it's lasted 11 years.
yeah,
I have another one that I have that I just got like 3 years ago. What I do notice is, because I live in both worlds, I have both
Yeah,
computers,
yeah.
it does seem dramatically faster than my compatible machines. Is that just I bought the wrong
Well, so
Windows 7 machine? It's
one of
not
the
fast.
things I said earlier on is that they don't sell anything quality at retail anymore. Like everything they sell is junk. So everyone has a $500 computer or less. I mean, I had somebody bring in a $300. I got it at Staples. I mean, but what happens is a lot of people, they have their old computer they've had for a really long time, and they go out and buy a new computer, and the new computer is actually lower quality than the old computer, and we've run into this a few times with people. And a lot of it, I started to say earlier, it's really difficult to shop for a computer if you don't know what you're doing. You go to the store and some 19-year-old kid is bombarding you with gigabytes and terabytes, and you don't know what he's saying, and he's telling you what his boss told him to sell. When I was at CompUSA years ago, we had a good, better, best kind of thing. They don't have that anymore, So somebody could come in there, and there was a $500 machine, and there was a $1,000 machine, whatever, So, but now they don't. You can still do that with like Dell, for instance. People say I bought a Dell. My question is, well, which Dell did you buy? Because Dell makes computers that's at $500 and makes computers that are $3,000. There's lots of things in there, and you need to have some expertise as far as choosing what you choose. But in general, the more money you spend, the better it is.
Is there an average price of, for instance, a machine that you make? Admittedly, I spent $1,600 on a Mac.
Right, and the Mac.
That's outrageous.
The Mac's outrageous, but you know what? It's worth every penny.
I think
it's worth every penny.
But
you can get a comparable machine for that. Our Photoshopper machine that we manufacture for photographers is $2,500, but its performance is similar to the $3,500 Mac. So people who've had $3,500 Macs, they're like, wow, this is a great deal. They're saving $1,000, okay? And you can also, the nice thing if you go Windows-based is you can also use that computer for everything else. Because unlike the Mac, it's not proprietary. But in general, you gotta be really careful with what you shop for. And you know, if you like the least expensive computer that we sell for the home, our basic model is $999. And some people get a big sticker shock out of that, but you know what? It includes delivery and installation and about $350 worth of services. The motherboard that I use on our least expensive computer cost me at wholesale $150. I can't make a $500 computer with those kind of components. I don't want to, because I'm in the service business, and whatever I sell you, even if you say, well, I'm sure it's good, you're gonna hate me later, okay? So if you wanna go to the mall and spend $500 and then pay me $200 or $300 to set it up for you, I'll do that. It's actually more profitable for me, honestly. I make more money on service than I do on new computers. But the goal is to put you into something good. So we have a great, better, best. We have for the home a $999, a $1499, and a $1999, and each model is twice as fast as the one beneath it. And so we try to gear it toward what your use is, not to take as much money as we can from you. But we'll say, you know, what do you use? Well, I'm using QuickBooks. Well, you should get a level 2 machine because QuickBooks is a real pig, you know. I'm using Adobe Photoshop and I want to be able, you know, so we'll work with you and try to find what the right model is for you, you know. I'm sorry, you know what? I forgot to ask you your Malwarebytes question.
Yes.
See, I remembered you. Malwarebytes is a great after program to run afterwards to check. It's not a good thing to protect you from malware, but it's a good one to run afterwards. But if you're running, like for instance, you know, I hate to keep going back to Viper, but if you have Viper on your system, you don't need to run anything else. You also want to make sure you're not running multiple different antiviruses at the same time. So Malwarebytes is good to run as an after effect, but don't have Malwarebytes running in the background along with like a Norton and a McAfee and an AVG. We have people who have 5 antiviruses on their machine. Their computers move like this, and they're not at all protected because each antivirus software is trying to strangle the other one. So it's like you're taking 5 different medicines your doctor gave you, and all of a sudden you realize, geez, you know, ever since I've been taking this medicine, I'm not feeling so well anymore. And you go back to the doctor, and they find out, and this actually happened to somebody I know, and it turns out that the blood pressure medication they're taking is really not reacting with the other medication.
What do you think of advanced system care, super anti-spyware, and
These are all
utilities?
a lot of these utilities are things that we use in the shop to run afterwards to clean machines, and there's a lot of those that are fine. Super anti-spyware works great for cleaning again, but you know when we do a clean on a system, we'll run 5 or 6 of those. And some of those will pick up some and some will pick up the other. Malwarebytes might miss something that super anti-spyware picks up and vice versa. But again, if you have a good program to begin with, you don't need all those. I mean, a lot of people really go, it's the other extreme. Like, to me, that's the other extreme. Like, you don't need that on there, you know what I mean? Unless you're a tech and you really enjoy sitting around scanning your system, it's really worthless. There's people who tell me, I scan my computer every day with my antivirus program. And I'm like, you should really get out more. Because you shouldn't be, you know what I mean? I mean, it should be set up to run automatically. You should do a quick scan once a night, you know, in the middle of the night. You know, I leave my computer on 24/7, my desktop, you can't do that with a laptop. But I leave my desktop on all the time. I have it set to do Windows updates and virus scans in the middle of the night. Once a week I do a full scan, which takes several hours. It's fine. It works flawlessly. It doesn't mean you can never get infected, because no matter what you do, it could happen. It's like a flu shot. Antivirus softwares are like a flu shot, okay? You can still get the flu, but it's not a good reason to not get the flu shot, okay? It really isn't. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You want to make sure you are putting the best level of protection. I love these various metaphors, and sometimes they can be annoying, but I think about locks on your house, okay? You know, you go to some people's house and the door's always open. Right? Which I don't think is a good idea, because anybody could kind of walk in. So you might want to keep the door locked. And then you have other people who go there and they have to get a key from the other room to open the front door. And I'm always like, you're going to die in a fire. That's my first reaction every time, okay? So they feel more secure. So life is a balance between these things, okay? If you never leave your house, you're unlikely to get mugged. But you're never going to leave your house, you know? If you never drive on the highway, it's going to take you a really long time to get somewhere. So it's a balance, and computers are the same thing. You know, you don't want to not have online banking because you're afraid that maybe something could happen to you. And you don't want to have so much protection on your system that you're not enjoying your system because all you're worried about is someone's going to come in and get you. You know, so it's a balance.